All right, we are back with number 13. Now, this one, I don't think we need to really go too crazy with drawing graphs. We could just read this one through and reason out what the answer would be. So, a business employs workers from the city neighborhoods and rural areas. These workers are perfect substitutes and cannot relocate in the short run. The government offers businesses a wage subsidy if they hire workers from the city neighborhoods. What is the effect of the subsidy on the wage rate of rural employees and on the total hours they work? All right, so what is the key factors that we need to address in this problem? So we have a government offer. The government offers a wage subsidy, and the subsidy is to hire workers from the city. All right, so that means that if you are a business and you hire people from the city, you get them at a lower rate, right? So since the rate of the city is lower and they're complete substitutes, you're going to hire more people from the city and less people from a rural area. And that means the people in the city will work more hours and the people rural will work less hours. So let's go ahead and take a look at the choices and see if we can put this one to bed. So wage rate of the rural workers. So since they're in less demand, their wage rates are going to go down, right? So one of those two choices. And the total hours the rural workers will work, it will also decrease, right? So the only option here is going to be D, that the wage of the rural workers will decrease and the hours they work will decrease. Okay, number 14, a per unit tax on pollution produced by a firm will affect the firm's output and pollution levels in which of the following ways? So to figure this out, let's go take a look at the standard supply and demand curves. Alright, so we have the normal supply and demand curves in blue, and then when the government poses a tax, what happens to the supply curve is that we raise the supply curve from here to here by the amount of the tax, right? So this distance here between those 2 points is the amount of tax, and you can see that the supply curve moves over, or it shifts up. Well, you could call it maybe shifting to the right. Shifting to the left. So look what happens when we do this. When you get a tax on a supply curve, you go from the quantity here and the price here, and that's going to change over to a new lower quantity and a new higher price. So you get a less of a quantity and a higher price. So let's go ahead and take a look at the choices. The output is going to decrease, so we saw those two. It's going to be correct. Now they ask about not the what happens to the price, but what happens to the pollution. Now pollution is going to be directly related to the quantity, and since you're producing less, you're going to get less pollution. So D would be the correct choice. Okay, number 15. Which of the following will most likely lead to a more equal distribution of income? So in other words, how do we make the rich poorer and the poor richer? And there's two terms in here that we have to understand, which is regressive and progressive. So a progressive tax is one where the tax rate increases with income, like our income tax. Well, a regressive tax is a tax rate that increases with decreasing income, like a sales tax. So why does a sales tax actually increase with decreasing income? So figure that everybody has to buy food, and if there's a tax on food, we all eat the same amount of food, so the tax would be the same for a poor person as a rich person, but a rich person has a much higher income. So their tax rate is smaller, and if they make more money, then the effective tax is even smaller overall. But if a poor person has a very little income, then that sales tax is actually a higher percentage. And if they made even less, it would be still a higher tax. So that's the example of a regressive tax. Okay, let's take a look at the choices. More regressive national sales tax, right? So now we already said that the national sales tax is a regressive tax to begin with, and as a regressive tax do not create more equal distribution of income. So if it becomes even more regressive, then you're certainly not going to get a more equal distribution of income. So we could rule that option out. a more progressive income tax. So that means that the rate of income tax actually increases as you make more money, right? So that is definitely an example of a regressive tax. And if you take money away from the rich, and if it does end up with the poor, then you have definitely created more equal distribution of income, for better or worse, but that's what it would do in the short term anyway. So that would be a correct choice. Let's take a look at the next one. An increase in the high school dropout rate. So, in order to make money, you need to have certain skills. If the people at the lower end of the spectrum drop out of high school, they're not going to acquire those skills. So, you'd expect those people who drop out to actually earn less. And if you're earning less than people who complete high school, then again, you will not have a more equal distribution of income. You have a unequal distribution of income. So that's incorrect. An increase in structural unemployment. So if unemployment goes from 3 to 5 to 7 to 9 to 10%, obviously the people who are unemployed are not going to have the same income of the people who are employed. So again, this would not equal income distribution. It would make it more unequal. So we'll rule that one out. And then finally, an increase in earnings for owners of capital. So, of course, there's many more people who own capital. Actually, there's far fewer people who own capital than don't. So, if they make more, it just becomes more unequal. And again, that would not be correct. So, here the answer will be B.